Yo, what is up, guys? It is Pineapple King. This is day, I think, 1920, something like that. Today is the Miami Dolphins. Let's get into it. Like, sub, everything. I love the series. Appreciation so far. We're going to be getting into some college football 26 stuff soon. Let's get into your best and worst moves, though. And some of your best moves, I think. Tua is known for his injury. Everybody knows that. He could have one bad tackle and be out forever at this point in his career. So adding Zach Wilson, you really thought I was going to think about Zach Wilson? Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers, guys. Drafting Quinn Ewers, I think that is a banger decision, you know? I think that's going to be perfect. And having Ollie Gordon, I think, as the backup is goated. I feel like they had an underrated draft. I love Ollie Gordon. He is a really good OSU running back. Quinn Ewers could be a very good backup, and maybe he needs to come in. Who knows? Kenneth Grant, obviously your first round pick, is going to be great. But some negatives, you have seriously in depth issue at corner. You have your fifth round draft pick, Jason Marshall Jr., in the right corner starting position right now because obviously you traded away Ramsey and you lost Artie Burns. I don't know what you're gonna do in the secondary, and other than those few draft guys that I mentioned, not really any other stars. And Quinn Ewers, Ollie Gordon, like I like those players, and I think they could be good, but people don't really see them as stars. So, uh, and obviously their free agency was not good at all. But let's get into it. We've been spending way too much time on the pros and the cons. You start in Lucas Oil Stadium, and I just don't think. I think they're gonna have to. Tua's gonna have to get back into it. He's barely got his freaking. He barely has a good brain right now. So playing an away game first in Indy, I feel like it's just not gonna work. And whoever starts there, whether it's Anthony Richardson, he always starts out really hot, or Daniel Jones either starts really hot, and then they both burn out. Either one, they'll start out hot against the Dolphins, especially with that weak secondary. But then you go to the Patriots in Miami. I think you do win there. I don't think Drake May can take advantage of the secondary as much as Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones could. People may hate me for that, but I'm not a huge Drake May guy. And I don't think the wide receivers are good enough in England either. And your defense is decent, but Tyreek's starting to lock in. You got Jalen Waddle, obviously, A-Chain, the whole shebang. But then a quick turnaround to play the Bills in Orchard Park. You're not winning that. I feel like that's impossible. That's an impossible turnaround. And it is just, you can't do it. But then you have a long break to go in to play the Jets in Hard Rock, and that is a dub. Extra long break at home, and it's the Jets. And Justin Fields should be back. I know we just heard about that injury literally today, but he should be back by then, and I still don't think that they'll beat the Dolphins this time. Starting off season 2-2, classic Dolphin season, and then you go to Charlotte and you lose. Bryce Young actually outperforms Tua, and I think that's very doable. Tua is good, but the more he hits the ground, the worse he's going to get, and it's just not going to be good. He's going to have to end up retiring super early. You're going to hear me say that a lot. I like Tua, but, the Panthers defense can hold their own. I think it'll be a semi-high scoring game, like 28-31. Then you got the Chargers in Hard Rock. It's another L, unfortunately. Jay Herbo cooks you and your secondary. And you don't need Quentin Johnston to catch a ball. You just need Lad McConkey. And Omarion Hampton looks really good. And he's probably getting into the groove of things by then. It's week 6. But then you get to play Cleveland. Oh, wait. You lose to Cleveland. I think Myles Garrett has a day, and this could be bad for Tua if he has a day and sacks him because they're playing the game. They're just gonna play the game. But if he hits the ground hard and on his head, who knows what's gonna happen? And maybe at this point they throw in Zach Wilson. Maybe that's what happens because even Tua started out 2-5. Maybe it's brain damage. Maybe he's gotta retire. Who knows? But then you start turning things around. Oh wait, no you don't because you play in Atlanta. Not possible. Not possible. Michael Penix is heating up at this point, trying to compete with the Bucks and Panthers to win the division. So they're going to win those home games. And it might be close, but they're going to win those home games. And then a quick turnaround to the Ravens. In Hard Rock, though, you win. And I don't know if Zach Wilson starts here. I don't know if Tua just locks in. But after a 4-game loss streak, you decide to come around and beat the Ravens on a random Thursday night. And that's exactly what the Dolphins would do. They'd come in on a random Thursday night and beat one of the best teams in the NFL at this point. I think you actually make them no longer undefeated, which is exactly what would happen and exactly what the Dolphins would do. Tyreek would go for like 200 yards and then break his ankle. But then you have to turn around and play the Bills, which is the next best AFC team. But it's in Hard Rock, and you get a dub. This is a tough stretch for Tua. Tough stretch. And then you have to go into Spain. Like, I may be believing too much in the Dolphins here, but I have you losing to the Browns, Falcons, Chargers, but beating the Ravens, Bills, Commanders. I just think the Dolphins are going to get into things. I think Tyreek's going to actually lock in. Jalen Waddle's going to play really good. He's going to have a banger first half, middle season. And at that point, maybe that 5th-round corner actually is really good, and he was a super sleeper pick, right? Or maybe they've traded for somebody at this point. But I think, I mean, you can play like a really good top-tier offense. Remember when you scored 70 points? Do you guys remember that? Felt like so long ago. It really wasn't, and it's a very similar offense to what you had now. So it is doable, and you guys can play like that, and I think you do for that 3-week stretch. And then you go into the bye week, and you're 6-6, and you're like, wow, this is going to be great. Tua gets diagnosed with something. Something happens. Because you play the Saints in Miami, and you beat them. Now you're 6-6, and now you look great. After the bye week, bada bing, bada boom. Loving it. You're not going to lose to the Saints, even if it's not Tua. But then you play the Jets again. And you split the series with them. And I think right here, I can confidently say at this point in the season, Tua is definitely no longer playing. He's no longer starting. And maybe it's the Zach Wilson show for a couple of games, but you're not going to beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. And you're not going to beat the high-powered Bengals offense with your horrible secondary. And you're not going to beat my Tampa Bay Bucks. We're both Florida teams. It doesn't matter if you're at home. And then you're going to split the series with the Patriots as well. And in the season, 6-11, which is very disappointing. Starting 6-6, and then just losing those last 5 games straight out. And I think it is because of a Tua injury, either that or just your secondary, more injuries in your secondary, and you literally have nobody there. You have to start throwing freaking Jalen Waddle at corner because you have no corners whatsoever. And I know it's counterintuitive to say like, oh, the Buccaneers have a good offense, so they're going to beat the Dolphins. But the Commanders, they have a good offense. The Bills have a good offense. Look, I think it is because of injury. I think they actually lock in for that 4-week span, that 4-game win streak to bring them to 6-6. It's a midseason Miami Dolphins lock in, and then it's all for nothing whenever Tua or somebody gets injured. And I think an injury comes into play here. Either that or you guys just blow a huge flat tire. But let's come over here and look at it. I believed in you guys. I had you guys tied with the freaking Bills. And that wasn't even winning the division, but you finished 8-9, which wasn't horrible. But obviously, 6-11 is going to put you down at 13. Hate to break it to you. It's not your year this year, and I think you've got to figure out the Tyreek situation. You've got to figure out if Tua is healthy enough to do this. Maybe at this point, you put in Quinn Ewers, and maybe you put in Quinn Ewers for those last 2 games, and he plays good, but he doesn't win. Because those last 2 teams are obviously going to the playoffs. But that'll be all. Unfortunately, the Dolphins is a really weird schedule. It's definitely going to be controversial. But I've just got a perfect roadmap for how I think the Dolphins are going to play. And I know it on paper it doesn't make sense, but hopefully if you watch this entire video, it will make sense to you. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the next one.